Question 1. In the absence of external DNS resolution for authentication redirection, a Citrix ACK administrator notices that users connecting via Citrix Gateway experience intermittent failures when the authentication virtual server is accessed. Which configuration change is most likely to ensure consistent authentication? A. Configure a local DNS profile and bind it to the Gateway virtual server. B. Enable MAC-based forwarding on the ADC interfaces. C. Disable TCP multiplexing for authentication sessions. D. Apply a rewrite policy to change the host header dynamically. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Configuring a local DNS profile ensures that authentication redirects resolve reliably when external DNS isn't available. MAC-based forwarding. B. Is unrelated to DNS resolution and could impact routing. Disabling ECP multiplexing. C. Might affect session handling but won't fix DNS issues. Write policy on host headers. D. Can help in some cases but doesn't address the underlying resolution problem. Question 2. During the process of integrating Citrix Gateway with Storefront, Patel notices that internal users are repeatedly prompted for credentials when launching applications. What should she verify first? A. That star servers are listed in the Citrix Gateway configuration. B. That Storefront is using the username and password method only. C. That the authentication policy is configured for no auth for internal subnets. D. That the Gateway vServer has a session policy bound at priority 0. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Internal users should bypass gateway authentication. Setting no auth for internal subnets prevents redundant prompts. Star listing A. Affects ticket validation, not multiple prompts. Storefront's authentication method. B. Alone doesn't stop double prompts. Session policy at priority 0. D. May apply globally but won't resolve the double authentication without correct no auth setup. Question 3. Given the circumstances of an hub pair where configuration synchronization is failing after a recent SSL certificate update, what is the most probable cause? A. The HARSync port is blocked by an upstream firewall. B. SSL key files are not synchronized automatically by default. C. The ns.conf file is corrupted on the secondary node. D. The cluster IP address has changed without updating peer settings. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. SSL keys are not auto-synced for security reasons, so they must be manually copied. Firewall blocking A would disrupt all HARSync, not just after cert changes. Corrupted ns.conf C could cause broader issues, not just sync failures. Cluster IP changes D apply to clustering, not standard hub pairs. Question 4. From a practical standpoint, when configuring load balancing for multiple web apps sharing the same IP but different URLs, which feature best optimizes performance and minimize SSL overhead? A. Multiple SSL profiles bound individually to each service. B. Content switching with a single SSL server and SNI support. C. Dedicated vServers for each application with separate certs. D. TCP buffering enabled per service to handle multiple flows. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Content switching with a single SSL server and SNI allows multiple apps to share SSL termination efficiently, reducing CPU load. Multiple SSL profiles A without SNI wouldn't differentiate domains efficiently. Separate vServers C increase resources. TCP buffering D optimizes performance in some cases but doesn't solve SSL elimination inefficiency. Question 5. When considering Citrix Gateway deployment in A. Italy wants to ensure split tunneling for remote users while maintaining control of internal traffic. What is the most appropriate method? A. Configure a session profile with split tunneling enabled and define an intranet application list. B. Bind a responder policy to redirect unauthorized traffic. C. Enable policy-based routing on the internal ACK interface. D. Create a layer 2 VLAN bridge between gateway and internal network. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Split tunneling via session profiles with intranet apps allows controlled internal access while letting other traffic go directly to the internet. Responder policies. B. Of HTTP traffic, not VPN flows. Policy-based routing. C. Is more for outbound traffic shaping, not VPN split tunneling. Layer 2 bridging. D. Would bypass intended security segmentation. Question 6. To illustrate this point, if authentication fails for certain LDAP users but succeeds for others and all credentials are correct, what is the likely misconfiguration? A. The LDAP server's base DN does not include all users. B. The authentication V server has too many session policies bound. C. The LDAP timeout is set too high, causing delays. D. The Citrix gateway license is not platinum. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. If base DN is too narrow, some users' accounts aren't found, leading to failed logins. Too many session policies. B. Doesn't cause selective authentication failures. LDAP timeout. C. Being high affects performance, not selectivity. License tier. D. Doesn't impact basic LDAP authentication. Question 7. While examining SAELS communication issues, Roberts discovers that clients with older browsers cannot connect to the Citrix gateway. Which change best resolves this without compromising security? A. Add support for deprecated SLV to the SSL profile. B. Enable TLS 1.2 and ELS 1.3 with modern ciphers and ensure fallbacks. 9. C. Remove all ciphers and allow the system default. D. Configure the gateway to use STATI RSA 10 24-bit keys. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Supporting ELS 1.2 and 1.3 ensures compatibility with most clients while maintaining strong encryption. SLVA is insecure and should be avoided. Removing all ciphers. C. May cause unpredictable behavior. RSA 10 24-bit keys. D. Are considered weak by modern standards. Question 8. Through careful analysis of Citrix ACK logging, an engineer notices repeated failed logins from unknown IP addresses. Which immediate step is most effective for mitigating this security threat? A. Apply an ACL to block the offending IP addresses. B. Enable client certificate authentication for all users. C. Disable the gateway until further notice. D. Change the LDAP password policy. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. ACLs can block malicious IPs instantly, stopping brute force attempts. Client certificate auth. B. Improves security but requires prep and user impact. Disabling the gateway. C. Halt all access, which is impractical. Changing LDAP password policy. D. Doesn't block the attack vector. Question 9. Contrary to popular belief, GLB misconfigurations can cause slow failovers rather than complete outages. Which setting most influences failover speed? A. The health monitor's response timeout and retries. B. The number of SSL profiles bound to the GLB service. C. The configured ECS size for the service group. D. The gateway v server's authentication policy binding order. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. GLB failover speed is directly tied to how quickly monitors detect failures. The timeout and retries determine this. SSL profiles. B. Have no impact. EES. C. Affects packet sizing, not failover detection. Authentication policies. D. Aren't part of GLB operations. Question 10. Taking into account that the Citrix ACK appliance has reached high EPUage due to SSL processing, what is the most effective optimization? A. Disable SSL flooding and let backend servers handle encryption. B. Enable hardware-based SSL acceleration using an SSL chip. C. Reduce the number of star servers configured. D. Limit concurrent sessions to reduce overall usage. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Hardware SSL acceleration significantly reduce CPU load for encryption tasks. Disabling SSL flooding may impact security and load balancing. Reducing star servers. C. Doesn't address SSL load. Limiting sessions. D. Reduces load but impacts user experience and is not an optimization. Question 11. By evaluating a Citrix ACK deployment, Mr. Gomez notices that load balancing traffic occasionally fails when one backend server is restarted. What configuration can prevent dropped client connections during backend restarts? A. Configure a graceful service shutdown with drain connection. B. Reduce the TCP idle timeout to force quicker reconnections. C. Enable TCP multiplexing globally. D. Bind content switching policy to redirect traffic temporarily. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Graceful shutdown with drain connection ensures active connections finish before service removal, preventing drops, reducing TCP idle timeout. B. Forces disconnections. TCP multiplexing. C. Reduces backend connections but doesn't solve mid-session drops. Content switching. D. Can route traffic, but without graceful drain, connections still break. Question 12. Throughout the course of implementing GLB, Andrews notices that the backup site isn't being selected even after primary site failure. Which settings should be checked first? A. Verify that GLB domain name matches the GNS zone file. B. Confirm that the GLB backup B server is set to backup virtual server type. C. Check that the metric exchange protocol connection between sites is active. D. Ensure that LDNS persistence timeout is less than 10 seconds. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. MEP is essential for GLB sites to share status. Without it, failover may not trigger. Matching domain names A is important but wouldn't block failover if MEP is functional. Backup vServer type B matters, but no MEP means status data is missing. LDNS timeout D affects persistence, not failover detection. Question 13. When faced with inconsistent authentication failures during peak hours, what adjustment could most effectively improve stability without lowering security? A. Reduce the LDAP search filter complexity. B. Increase the LDAP authentication timeout value. C. Disable group extraction in the LDAP policy. D. Change the authentication method from LDAP to radius. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. During heavy load, increasing timeout allows LDAP servers more time to respond, improving reliability. Reducing filter complexity A helps performance but may limit security precision. Disabling group extraction C reduces authorization flexibility. Switching to radius D changes infrastructure requirements, not always practical. Question 14. Under the assumption that you need to allow on HE traffic to a specific backend app via load balancing, which approach best meets the requirement with minimal config overhead? A. Bind an SSL policy to block no HTTPS requests. B. Apply a load balancing monitor that check it easily. C. Use an ACL to explicitly allow TCP 443 and deny other ports. D. Deploy a responder policy to read at HE. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. An ACL at the level efficiently enforces port restrictions before session processing. SSL policies A. Handle encryption but not port filtering. HE easily monitor. B. Checks health, not access control. Redirect to HET. D. Doesn't block HET. It converts. Question 15. Considering the evidence, Nakamura finds that the ADC is responding slowly to new SSL connections despite having modern ciphers enabled. Which change is most likely to improve performance? A. Enable SSL session reuse in the SSL profile. B. Switch to EXA certificates for supported clients. C. Disable TLS 1.2 to reduce handshake time. D. Reduce the size of the SSL key from 2048 to 1024 bits. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. EXA certificates use smaller keys with equivalent security, reducing handshake overhead. SSL session reuse A helps, but EXA impacts every connection speed. Disabling TLS 1.2 C would break compatibility. Reducing key size to 1024 bits D compromises security and is discouraged. Question 16. From multiple perspectives, why might an administrator bind multiple star servers to Citrix gateway? A. To provide redundancy for ticket validation requests. B. To improve star ticket encryption strength. C. To reduce the number of session policies needed. D. To allow star tickets to be reused across user sessions. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Multiple star servers ensure redundancy. If one fails, others handle ticket requests. Encryption strength. B is determined by SSL, not number of stars. Reducing policies. C is unrelated. Star tickets. D are not reusable across sessions for security. Question 17. In comparison with other high availability methods, what unique benefit does Citrix X link-independent network configuration mode offer? A. Faster sync times due to separate data plane replication. B. Each node maintains its own network config, allowing different subnets. C. Automatic license pooling across both nodes. D. Eliminates need for heartbeat connections. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Inc allows HAR nodes to have different network configs useful in multi-subnet setups. Faster sync. A is not the core benefit. License pooling. C is unrelated. Heartbeats. D are still required for HAR health checks. Question 18. The effectiveness of Citrix gateway EPA scans depends largely on what factor? A. The complexity of the VPN session policy expressions. B. The accuracy and availability of the EPA plugin on client devices. C. The number of STOS servers configured. D. The TCP congestion control algorithm used. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. EPA relies on client plugins to gather endpoint data. If unavailable or outdated, scans fail. Policy complexity. A. Affects processing but not raw accuracy. STOS servers. C. Relate to ticketing, not TCP algorithms. D. Don't impact EPA results. Question 19. From a historical standpoint, why is TCP multiplexing often enabled in large-scale Citrix deployments? A. To reuse server-side connections and reduce backend load. B. To encrypt all client-server traffic by default. C. To bypass SSL handshake for repeated connections. D. To allow unlimited client connections without resource constraints. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. ECP multiplexing reuses existing server-side TCP sessions, reducing backend connection churn and improving performance. It doesn't encrypt traffic. B. Bypass handshakes. C. Or create infinite capacity. D. Question 20. While it is true that logging can identify trends, which Citrix tool is best suited for real-time connection troubleshooting? A. SCONST. B. syslog CSEM. E. SMP traps. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. A. Captures packets directly for real-time network troubleshooting. SCONST reads system message files. Good for event review but not live packet capture. Syslog. B. and SMP traps. D. are monitoring tools, not detailed packet analyzers. Question 21. Examining the consequences of a misconfigured load balancing vServer is Fisher notice SSL handshake failures only for certain clients, which is the most likely cause? A. The SSL profile is missing backward compatible ciphers. B. The monitor type is set to HTTP and listed at HEEs. C. The persistence type is set to source. D. The TCP idle timeout is too low. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Missing backward compatible ciphers can block older clients during SSL negotiation. Incorrect monitor type. B. Would affect service health, not handshake. Persistence. C. Affects routing consistency, not SSL. Idle timeout. D. Impacts long sessions, not initial handshakes. Question 22. With the advent of hybrid cloud deployments, Ahmed wants to integrate Citrix with Azure-based backend services while preserving client IP visibility. What's the best method? A. Configure use of the client HTTP header in the AT. B. Enable user use source IP mode on the load balancing vServer. C. Bind content switching policy to route based on X forwarded for. D. Set up reverse proxy for each backend service. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Use it mode passes the client's actual IP to backend servers, which is critical for logging and geo-based decisions. Client IP header 8 may be ignored by some apps. Content switching C routes traffic but doesn't inherently pass the IP. Reverse proxy D is more complex and unnecessary if user works. Question 23. During the process of configuring Citrix Gateway for remote users, Rossi observes that file downloads intermittently fail over the VPN. Which configuration change is most likely to help? A. Increase the TCP profile's window scaling and buffer size. B. Cheeto support on the VPN virtual server. C. Reduce the MTU on the VPN interface to avoid fragmentation. D. Apply responder policy to retry failed requests automatically. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. Lowering MTU prevents packet fragmentation, a common cause of file transfer issues over VPNs. Increasing ECP buffers A may improve throughput but not prevent fragmentation. HETO. B. Benefits web apps. Not all downloads. Responder policies. D. Can retry, but this doesn't address packet loss. Question 24. Based on the information from Citrix ACK logs and admin suspects, a brute force attack on gateway authentication. Which configuration best prevents repeated login attempts? A. Configure an authentication attempt limit with account lockout. B. In LTLS 1.3 only ciphers on the gateway. C. Bind multiple LDAP policies for load sharing. D. Apply overwrite policy to obscure login page elements. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Limiting attempts and locking accounts stops repeated brute force attempts. TLS 1.3. B. Secures encryption but doesn't block attempts. Multiple LDAP policies. C. Spread load but don't add security. Right. D. Obscures page but not the attack method. Question 25. The underlying principle of half failover is seamless continuity. If failover in an active-passive pair results in dropped ICA sessions, what's the likely oversight? A. Missing hashsync of SSL certificates. B. Session reliability not enabled in Citrix policies. C. Persistence timeout shorter than ICA idle timeout. D. Improper VLAN tagging on the secondary node. Answer. Correct answer. C. Explanation. If persistence timeout is shorter than ICA idle timeout, failover breaks the session mapping, dropping users. SSL certificate sync A affect secure services but not session mapping. Session reliability. B helps but persistence mapping is core. VLAN tagging. D would cause broader connectivity issues. Question 26. From a historical standpoint, why did Citrix introduce Encore architecture in ACK appliances? A. To allow packet engines to run in parallel, improving scalability. B. To replace traditional SSL chips with software-only processing. C. To enable ACK to run on commodity hardware. D. To simplify single-threaded packet processing. Answer. Correct answer. A. Explanation. Encore distributes traffic processing across multiple packet engines, increasing throughput and scalability. It didn't replace SSL chips. B. And while it runs on some commodity hardware. C. That wasn't the primary reason. Single-threaded simplification. D. Is the opposite of Encore's goal. Question 27. Through careful analysis of a Citrix ACK configuration, an engineer finds that traffic is being sent to a down backend server. Which configuration fix is most appropriate? A. Change the load balancing method to least connection. B. Bind a proper health monitor to the service group. C. Enable TCP multiplexing for server-side efficiency. D. Apply a responder policy to drop requests to that server. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Binding a monitor ensures traffic is sent only to healthy servers. Least connection. A. Changes balancing but not health awareness. TCP multiplexing. C. Doesn't detect down servers. Responder policy. D. Could drop requests but is reactive, not preventive. Question 20. When evaluating the merits of content switching, which is a key advantage over creating multiple individual V servers? A. Reduced SSL handshake time for each connection. B. Centralized SSL termination and reduced IP address usage. C. Automatic failover with a GLB. D. No need for authentication configuration. Answer. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Content switching allows multiple services to share one SSL termination, saving IPS and simplifying management. It doesn't inherently reduce handshake time. A. Replace GLB failover. C. Or eliminate authentication needs. D. Question 29. In light of recent developments, an admin wants to secure Citrix Gateway from man-in-the-middle attacks. Which setting provides the strongest immediate protection? A. HTTP strict transport security in the SSL profile. B. Bind multiple DOS servers for redundancy. C. Set persistence type to SSL session. D. Use MAC-based forwarding. Answer. Correct answer A. Explanation. HSDS forces clients to UHEs, blocking downgrade attacks. Star redundancy. B is unrelated to MIT and prevention. SS session persistence. C helps session stickiness, not security. MAC-based forwarding. D is a switching feature, not encryption related. Question 30. The development of Citrix Act policy infrastructure allows multiple policy types to be evaluated in sequence, which evaluation order ensures optimal performance for HTTP traffic. A. Responder. Rewrite. Content switching. B. Content switching. Responder. Rewrite. C. Rewrite. Content switching. Responder. D. Responder. Content switching. Answer. Correct answer. D. Explanation. Responder policies should act first to block or redirect quickly, followed by content switching for routing, and then rewrite for final header payload changes. Other sequences add unnecessary processing before early exits, reducing performance efficiency.